afternoon, everyone. It's about 7 o'clock. We'll get started. We haven't had a guy to go out, but he will be back in a few minutes, so we'll get started. Welcome to the August 2025 meeting of the Houston County Historical Society. Glad to see everyone here. If you would, please silence your phones. Jackie has a sign-in sheet. If you have not signed in, or she will check and see your names there. We're very happy to have all of you here tonight. We will start the meeting by a pledge to the flag. Over to the right, Ms. Pam Lowry, if you would. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone receive your minutes. All your members receive your minutes. If you'd like to become a member, see Miss Leah. She can get you signed up. Are there any corrections, additions, or anything to the minutes that came out? If there are no changes, we will deem them approved. Next would be the treasurer's report. Ms. Leah.
As we mentioned last month, we got a nice donation for our eBay fund, and I also rolled over from the CD, so we have some money for next year. We now have $2,229.44 in the checking account, and the CD is at $10,396.47.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make the motion.
Second. Melissa, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next is membership dues. Since it's already August, if you would like to get signed up for next year, you can continue coming this year. If you'd like to get signed up for next year, we will appreciate your membership and be glad to welcome you in. Melissa, do you have a Houston County Archives update, please?
I'm going to move this back just a little bit so I can't see people in the front row. Hello, I'm Melissa Barker. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Houston County Archivist and Records Manager. We have our archives and museum in the basement of the courthouse. If you've never visited us, I would encourage you to come. We have a lot of local history on display. We have records, historical records, genealogical records, and we're constantly receiving records for donations from those who have had families here, those who are cleaning out houses. And one of the things I want to tell you about is this Saturday I was actually digging through a barn. I got a phone call from Miss Susie Baxter, Susie Schmidto Baxter, and she they had a barn and it was full of stuff. And of course, I go for all the papers. So I look for documents, photographs, scrapbooks, old family letters, old business records, especially business records. And so we got a great collection of records from her husband's family mainly, the Baxters, the Walters, Barnes, some other names I can't think off the top of my head. So we've got 6 totes full of stuff that we brought back to the archives. So I beg people, don't throw it away. If your children and your grandchildren are going to want this stuff, please start donating it now, because what you throw away is our history. One thing that I did was able to purchase something also over the weekend. I purchased an Erin Theater. They call these handbills. Anybody remember? Let's see, on the back row, yes. This one is dated from February 1956. Now when I looked at the movies, this is telling you what movies were showing. When I looked at the movies, I was like Leah said today, I recognize some of the actors, but I don't remember hearing about these movies. Gary Cooper in Return to Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
The White Orchid with William Lundigan. Jane Wyman and Charlton Heston and Lucy Gallants. Y'all are like, yeah, I know, yeah. I'm like, never heard of it. Randolph Scott in Tall Man Riding. Looks like a Western. Let's see, who else? Dennis Morgan in The Gun That Won the West. God, find some other ones. But, so do we have, this is probably the third one of these that we have. We have very little when it comes to the Earring Theater. We have 3 of these like this. We have 1 ticket. One was, they've been torn in half. We have a ticket. And we do have the movie projector. If you come to the archives, you'll see it on display on top of our big display case. It was actually sitting out in a field. But I have one of the movie projectors and 2 lights that they used in the theater. And we have theater seats out in the hallway. So that's one of the areas we are desperately asking for records. Some of the other things we're asking for records for, of course, are school records, business records. One of the things that I'm trying to do is to document every single business that has ever been in Houston County, from 1871 to today. And I mean even today. We have businesses that come in and they go out, and they come in and they go out. You would look how many people call and say, do you have any records on this business? My ancestor owned it. Or we used to frequent that business. So I'm looking for photographs, business letterheads especially, business ledger books. Those are also great. So please don't throw it away. Bring it to the archives. Please consider donating it. If you're not ready to donate it, bring it to us. Let us scan it. A lot of people aren't ready to let go of their stuff. We do digitization projects. We take what you have, we digitize it, scan it, and we hand it back to you. Maybe not that day, because it takes us some time, but we will give it back to you. Because in your closets, in your attics, in your basements, in your drawers, you have photographs of your family, which is great. But what I look at is what's behind those people. Are there buildings that we no longer have that are in those pictures? Are there things from the community in the background that we know that's no longer there? So that's kind of what we're looking for as well. So please come see us in the archives. Donate when you can, and get with me. I'll be glad to get with you on that. Last thing I want to do, many of you will remember Mr. Ron Tummelson, who came here a couple of months to talk to us about, he was writing a book on the iron industry in Stewart and Houston counties. Now, the iron industry was going on before Houston County was a county. However, 2 of the iron industries was in Houston County before we were a county. So he has produced his book. He has given us, wonderfully, 10 copies, which I've already sold 1, for a special price of $20. And I've also got flyers where you can go online and purchase if you want to. When you go online and purchase, I think they're $22 or $25. But he's giving us a special price of $20 for these particular 10 copies. So after the meeting, enjoy Mr. Dan, but after the meeting, if you'd like a copy, you can write a check or give me cash, and I'll be glad to sell you one. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Jackie and Donald report that there is nothing new yet on the Korean and Vietnam Veterans Project. If you have anyone with any information that would like to share that about your Houston County Korean or Vietnam veteran, please contact the archives and we'll get you signed up. And this is a big project. I think there's we've already collected 500 to 600 newspaper clippings for our Houston County veterans, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Also like to report that the calendar for this year has been filled for September. Carol, is that you and Rodney that have September?
No, it's Buck Nolan.
Okay, it's you. Okay, Lee, I'm sorry, I thought it was Carol. Buck Nolan will present the program in September.
On TVA, the history of TVA at Cumberland.
Okay.
Buck Nolan. Beverly.
I think that's it. So our calendar now is full through March 2026. So if you have a burning, something that you want to talk to us about, we'll sign you up for next year. And now we will turn the program over to Dan Alsobrooks on his trip to Africa.
Well, over the years, I've got to do give a few arguments to a few juries in Houston County, and I always thought this was the most difficult place that I had because of my 5 counties, because I always thought there were people on the jury that were looking at me, and they were remembering me when I was about 6 years old, and I had my shirt off, and I was running around town usually with some kind of drink running down my belly. And some of you were with me at that time. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to get people to do something that's pretty serious and pretty hard to do, and they're thinking about me, without my shirt on running around. Because some of us just came off, that time I was living in town, and we just wandered up and down the streets and went all over the place. I want to start out by thanking everybody's here, everybody's special to me, and because it is hometown. And but a special thanks to Jackie and Donald. They showed up today to help me set up today, and including in the setup was I had bought 3 easels from Hobby Lobby. And I should have looked a little closer. I didn't realize that there was some assembly required. And Jackie is really good. If y'all need somebody to put together something, she is really good. But I was sort of reminded about that, and I probably can point one of those is the one with the leopard over there. And there's another one. But they were hard to put together, and she did all of it. And I found out that Donald's not very good. But I was reminded about a story that I never saw, but they said at Mitchum Hardware that they came in one day, and I think it was Carlisle. My grandfather was outside, and he had some red paint, white paint, and a black paint, and a stencil, and he was painting a ladder in the back of the store. And I said, Carlisle, what are you doing? He said, I am tired of people not returning those ladders. He said, I'm going to paint this ladder red and white, and I'm going to stencil on there, stolen from Mitchum Hardware. And that worked. So I may need to do that for my easels. I'm not going to loan them out. I'm going to give me some paint and paint them. And my dad came along several years ago. I guess he'd heard the story. We were having a problem down at the Shamrock Club. We had some outboard motors that were stolen. And Daddy bought a brand new Mercury motor. And he was out there with orange spray paint and a stencil. Stolen from B.G. Alsobrooks. Was painted on and nobody stole it, ever did steal that. So there's some thought that goes into some of this stuff. Somewhere I've got my notes. Here. I appreciate you being here, and I promise to try to keep this short, and I want to talk for a little while and then open it up for maybe some of you will come up with some good questions. I started dreaming about going to Africa over 50 years ago. And when I was that little boy that we were talking about, I used to watch shows on TV, mostly starting out. And of course, those usually involve Jane and Tarzan. And I walked in, and I didn't miss many, and I saw them a lot of times. And then after I put reading glasses on, there was something called Circus Boy. Y'all remember Circus Boy? There were several of those shows, and that's about the time I guess I started dreaming about going to Africa. And later, several years later, I saw Meryl Streep and Robert Redford in the movie Out of Africa, and that just made me fall in love with it again. And I don't know that I ever fell out of love with Africa. I read books written by Karen Blitzen, and Robert Ruark, and Robert Rain, and of course Ernest Hemingway, and some of them several times. I even started studying about how to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Well, the bad news is I'm never going to get up Mount Kilimanjaro. I think a knee operation and old age has taken care of that issue. But while it's unlikely that I will ever summit Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa. I did make it to Tanzania last year in August. And I had the help of an amazing travel agent from Nashville. Her name is Carol Andrews, and she specializes on really nice trips. And somehow I scraped together a little of my retirement money, and I went with 10 other people, including her, and didn't know a single one of those people. And somehow, with her help on the plane tickets, I got there. I traveled from Nashville to Dallas, from Dallas to Doha International Airport in Qatar, and then from Qatar to Kilimanjaro International Airport near Arusha, and I made that trip by myself, because the other people that were on the trip, they had gone 5 days earlier and had gone to Uganda to see the gorillas. Well, I kind of priced that part of the trip, and I decided that I would spend the money that I could on the 5 days to go see the gorillas. I decided to spend that money to fly. For the first time in my life, I flew business class, and boy, was it nice. I've done a lot of flying, but it was really nice. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was able to make it all the way and get there. When I got there, I met up with the other 10 people on my trip, and they flew in from, all of them, but one of them flew in from Uganda. And after we got there, we started going. We went to what would turn out to be 3 national parks. Those national parks, and we were going on a photo safari. We didn't shoot any animals, that's Judy. I've got another story that you'll be interested in, maybe all of it. But we went to the Tarangire National Park, which is not too far from the Serengeti, and we were there for 2 days. And then we went to the Ngora Crater, which is a famous location in Tanzania, in Africa, in East Africa. And then the final part of the trip, we stayed about 2 days everywhere we went. The final part of the safari was in the northern section of the Serengeti. After we were there for almost 7 days, we took a short flight out from the Serengeti on a trip on somewhere. There's a picture of maybe on the table over there, of a plane that we were flying on a smaller plane. And we flew from there to Arusha, and from Arusha to Zanzibar, which is on an island in the Indian Ocean. The Zanzibar part of the trip was mostly just for relaxation. It was kind of like going to the beach, kind of like going to Hawaii. But it was very nice, beautiful place. And we spent 3 days there, and then we flew back, pretty much the same route, 30 hours back to Nashville. That time we went from Zanzibar to Doha, and from there to, instead of going to Dallas, we flew into Chicago, and from Chicago back to Nashville. But what I really want to talk about for a few minutes is the safari on the 7 days in the Serengeti. We were taken around in the Serengeti. We had 2 trackers driving 2 vehicles. I thought I would go there and see a lot of Land Rovers and Jeeps. Saw 1 Land Rover the whole time we were in Africa. And they were all Toyotas. They were all diesel powered. I thought that was interesting. And they were great vehicles, and we drove on some of the roughest roads. You think Eastern County gravel roads used to be rough, they're all rough. But they take really good care of their vehicles, and they get about 250,000 miles on those vehicles. This guy right here, Raymond, I thought I was going to end up being really close friends with everybody in that trip that I was on. Well, you know who I became close friends with? Raymond. What about Raymond? And he was the tracker, and he's the guy that drove one of the Land Rovers, no, not Land Cruisers, Toyotas. And just a terrific guy to be around. And the way they find the animals, they're looking all the time, but as we rode around, they're on the radio all the time, and they're talking to other trackers in other vehicles, and they communicate. When somebody sees a leopard or an elephant or whatever people wanted to see, then they race to get there, and they meet up there, and then the first one there gets the first chance to take a photograph, and then everybody else kind of gets in line, and they take photographs. And that went on for the 7 days that we were there, and it was a hoot. We camped in 3 different locations, 2 days at a time, on the Serengeti at those 3 national parks. And most of the places that we were camping, they called them, the places we stayed, tents, but it really wasn't tent camping, it was glamping. Most of the places we stayed were nicer than any house that I've ever lived in Houston County. They were really nice. So we were in 4-star type locations, at 4-star accommodations in the tents, and 5-star locations. And we took photographs of every animal that we saw, and we saw, one of the things we took pictures of was birds. And we took photographs of birds as large as eagles and as small as an African blue roller. That little bird right there, and you can see the picture of that one, he's about the size of a wren, and it was in a mud hole, and those little birds were beautiful. The other picture over there is a red-headed barbet. This was in a mud pile, and that one was in a big anthill, a big one. And he was not much bigger than this bird. And but we saw a lot of beautiful animals. The birds were just part of the show. We also saw something called a red-billed okapecker. And the okapeckers, every time we saw them, they were on the back of a hippo. And they have a relationship with the hippos, and they eat the bugs off the back of the hippos, and the hippos don't seem to mind it. And I've got pictures of them. We photographed animals as small as a jackal. That looks a little bit like a fox, not as big as a fox, but and that was in a place where, in a hole where there was, behind that pile of dirt, there was a hole that he came out of. And we took pictures for animals as small as that, or as large as zebras and elephants. Lots of elephants. We probably saw hundreds of elephants while we were there. But we also saw giraffes and hippos, and like I said, hundreds of elephants. On the herd, what I call the herd animals, the deer sort of the plains, the smallest one of those that we saw was called a dink-dink. And the dink-dink is about 18 inches to 2 foot tall, just a little bitty rascal.
Is that like a deer?
Yeah, it's just a little bitty deer. And the largest one that I remember seeing was one that was about 6 foot tall, and they called them a hartebeest. And if you look in the calendar over there, there's a picture that I took of a hartebeest, and there were literally thousands of those animals on the Serengeti that we saw while they were there. And sometimes we could get close to them, and sometimes not. We witnessed what they call river crossings. Certain times of the year, there's something that's going on called the Great Migration. And the Great Migration is there are 6 million wildebeest and 2 million, give or take a few, zebras, and they migrate from the south part of Kenya, and they migrate down through Tanzania, and then they make a circle and come back. And that goes on all year long, and it's all about water. And finding grass to eat and that sort of thing. And I always just assumed that the Great Migration was all of the animals. Now, it's not. What I learned was that the only two animals that consistently migrate are the zebras and the wildebeest. And they're kind of kindred souls. They kind of travel with each other. And when they're in the north part of the country, they get to, I've got a picture somewhere, they swim across the Maury River several times. They cross back and forth across the Maury River. Maury River separates Kenya and Tanzania. And those animals line up in groups, kind of 2 by 2, sometimes more than that. But they get down and they get all the way down and they get started to get ready to go across that.
It's right there behind you.
Okay, there, yeah. They get down to the river, and you know what they're looking for when they get down there? Crocodiles. And if they see a crocodile, they just turn around and go back. So we spent days, 2 or 3 days, trying to watch them swim the river. Eventually, now Judy, you'll like this story. Judy's an animal lover, and there were some women in the Land Cruiser with me. When they got down there one time, and they started swimming across the river, and one of those big crocodiles went over and grabbed one of those wildebeest and grabbed it, just drowned it right there in front of us there. And the women started going, "Oh, this is awful." I said, "This isn't awful. That's what I came to Africa for." Judy would have been one going, "Oh." But those river crossings were something to see. We saw 2 big ones and some smaller river crossings. And those crocodiles, I call them monsters. Some of them are about 14 or 15 foot long. And they'll pull a wildebeest. Some of the wildebeest weigh 600 or 700 pounds, I would guess them at. And they're able to, when those crocodiles grab one, just disappeared, pulled it underneath the water. I didn't get to see, Judy didn't get to see me the wildebeest. I wanted to. I never could get a picture of that. But I tried. But it was exciting. There are the trackers spend a lot of time trying to get people to see a river crossing. We were lucky enough to see 2 big ones, and it is really exciting. And then there were the cats. And I'm going to guess that in the 7 days that we were on the Serengeti that we probably saw maybe 300 or 400 lions while we were there. And sometimes those lions would get close enough to the vehicles we were riding in. Now, we didn't get out of the vehicles very often. I'll tell you a story about that. Those lions were close enough to our vehicle that you could hear them breathing. And these are wild animals, so it was something. We saw several lions. We saw a few leopards. They're a little harder to see. And we got a chance to see the fastest mammal in the world, the cheetahs. And I got that picture. There were 2 of them together, but you can only see one of them in that photograph, I think. But that was one of the great moments, was taking a picture of that. When I got back from the trip, I put together, I took about 3,000 photographs with my Sony camera with a telephoto lens. And I was able to get, after taking 3,000 pictures, I got about 12 that I thought were okay. And that's the ones that you're seeing in some of the pictures here. But I enjoyed doing it. And one of the things we got to do, not only did we get to see the animals from the vehicle, but one morning we got up real early and went out and met a group there that have hot air balloons. And we took a balloon ride on the Serengeti. We were in the north section of the Serengeti. And we left early enough that we got to see the sun come up over the Serengeti, and it was pretty thrilling. And while we floated down, we were on right beside the Maury River. We could see Kenya on one side, and what we thought was Kenya, and on the other side was Tanzania. And we floated along, and the migration was going on, and we saw hundreds, if not thousands, of. There's one of those pictures over on the table over there that's got some of the zebras in the wildebeest, and there were thousands of them. And then after about a 2-hour flight, we landed right out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Serengeti, and there was a vehicle that was following us, and they set up real quick, and we had champagne and a brunch on the Serengeti. That was pretty cool. And got to toast the animals from after we landed. That was I wouldn't take anything for that experience. After I got back, I put together 2 calendars. They're laying on the table there at the places, and the first calendar, my daughter Alden helped me put together, and we forgot to put any notes in there. We had to put an insert with the notes on it, and so I put. Then I got Alden helped me. She helped me edit a lot of my stuff, and we ended up doing a second calendar that came out a little bit better, and she helped me put this together. And she's got a friend named Amanda Stever, and Amanda is in school in Nashville, and she absolutely put this entire calendar together, and I've had the most fun doing that. I'm just about out. I've given a bunch of them away, and I even sold some in the bookstore in Dixon. Like that. And if I get to go back, and I'm supposed to go back to Africa in September of this year, and I'm hoping to get another set of photographs, and maybe try to crank out another calendar. So they'll be for, if I get back and do that, they'll be for sale at the Reading Rock bookstore in Dixon. Somebody wrote one time and said that Africa would change your life. And I don't know if that's always true, but and somebody else said Africa will never disappoint. And for me, it wasn't disappointing, and it did change my life. And for an old man, I really got to live out one of my fantasies and do that. My intent was to stop early in this conversation with y'all and open it up for questions. So if you're ready, I'm ready. I'll try to answer anything. I've just hit the high part. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What did you have to do to prepare to go over there, like
Get a big
vaccinations?
sack of money.
For health reasons,
Dickies used to be trying to be funny.
disease,
Tanzania is one of the healthier places in a third world country. And I was old enough, and I'm pretty old, that yellow fever can be a problem in that part of the world, but not as much in Tanzania. So I had to get the first time I went, if you had been to Uganda, I would have had to have the yellow fever shots, the vaccination. But I got a letter I didn't go to Uganda, but I got a letter from my doctor saying, he's too old, it doesn't matter. And so I didn't do that. Some people take quinine pills to try to avoid getting ward off malaria. What I learned from people talking about it was a lot of times the pills that you take will make you feel sick in your stomach all the time. So I just decided to take a risk. You got to be concerned about the bugs there, like you do here in the South. There are mosquitoes. Didn't see many. There's a fly called a tsetse fly, and one time the tracker said, everybody roll the windows up, we're going through an area that they've been having some of the flies. And so we really never had a problem. But vaccinations are worthy of study. But in my case, I'm planning on going back, and if I can help it, I'm not going to take anything. And if something happens to me, if I get something, I do have I got a letter the last time made by Jerry Smith. Tommy Marvin in Dixon got me a letter that he said that somebody had died over there and it cost several $1,000s to ship him back. I said, well, why do I care about that? That won't matter if it's me. But when I did get a letter, and they do have 2 mortuaries there that you can be cremated there, and they'll send you back in a pasteboard box. So I may carry a letter to that effect when I go. And if something happens to me, y'all can just write this down. If something happens to me, you just say Dan was doing just what he wanted to do. So there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot to read and a lot of things you can do trying to put it all together. There's small things and large things, but that's a good question. There's certain colors they suggest you don't wear a lot of blue because there's one of the tsetse flies or something don't like blue, especially dark blue. So not clothes you carry. But the weather is sort of similar to us, but a little warmer. August was, mornings it would be in the 50s and would get up to about 80, but it was really nice. And so.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah.
are there ticks in Africa?
Do what now?
Are there ticks in
I
Africa?
didn't hear anybody say that. What I did, the guy that drove Raymond told me that he said, he gave a speech to everybody. He said, now, look, we're going to be out here running around all day long. He said, if there's any of you guys, men or women, he said, if y'all need to use the bathroom, he said, you just raise your hand and said it's time to check the tires. So, who was the first person to raise their hand? About 30 minutes later, I raised my hand and said, time to check the tires. So we stopped, we jumped out, and I started running out in the field to pee. And he got out of the Jeep, came over there, he go, whoa, 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 where are you going? I said, well, I'm going here in the bush, find me a bush to get behind. He said, no, we don't do that. He said, we got some bad snakes here. He said, you just go over here and get behind the vehicle, nobody will pay any attention to you. We do that. But so they didn't want us out running around. He said, we got some bad snakes. They got one called a black mamba that's really bad. And and there's some other small snakes that are mean. So we didn't do a lot of hiking. I thought there would be some hiking involved. Not much. And at night you don't go anywhere unless one of the Maasai guards goes with you, because you might run up on some animal that might hurt you. So they're very protective. Very protective. Good question.
What kind of food did you eat?
Just sort of normal food. They have some local foods that have. This guy here was in Zanzibar. You know what he's cutting up?
It's like mangoes.
Green mangoes. I don't know if they make salads out of there or they make a pie. I don't know. I paid him $3 to take his picture. So, and most of them, if you ask them, they're very polite, but they'll be glad to take $1 or $2 to take a picture. I took $301 bills and I used all of them I had. Good question. Yes, sir.
Did your cell phone work?
You know, that's a great question. I suggested he ask that. They really do. Their cell phone coverage is better than it is in Houston County. And I think it's because they cater to the student tourists. They really take care of you there. And I only saw one cell tower the whole time I was there. They designed their cell towers to make them blend in. They look like trees. The one that I saw, you would, if you weren't really looking for it, you wouldn't see it. But they had great coverage. And then I'll throw in something else. When I went to Europe several years ago, I was considering how long they've had civilization in Europe. I thought the bathrooms would be a whole lot better. They're horrible places, even in places like France. If you're not staying in a hotel, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes, well, all of the bathrooms on the Serengeti and everywhere we went were better than average. They were good, but really as good as anything we've got in the United States. They really take care of people there. And they're set up to cater to the people, because tourism is their biggest industry. The people were very nice. I enjoyed it, and I felt safe everywhere we went. A lot safer than I would going to Clarksville at night. So, no offense, Larry. But it was really, they really work hard. It's a third world country. Most of the houses have metal roofs like a barn. Didn't see a lot of really nice places to live, but they do pretty well.
Was there any place that they didn't want you to take pictures?
They don't want you taking any, there are a few military people around, and they don't want you taking pictures of the military, kind of like you're in Italy, that way. But other than that, I don't remember anything else. They said about just taking pictures of people, just ask them, be polite. Americans sometimes aren't very polite, and like I found out, like I said, though, you can ask them for a picture and hand them a $1 bill. Even the Maasai, who were a very proud group of people, but even the Maasai, they said they were very stoic till you ask them, give them a $1 bill to take a picture, and they were ready to take a picture. They dug that to you. Other question?
Hey, Ellen, Dan, you were talking about movies about Africa. Have you ever seen The Gods Must Be Crazy?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
It was in the mid-'80s. You'll have to
I'll look
check
for
that
it.
out.
Yeah.
The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Jeff loved it. You should look it up.
I'll look it up. I read all the time, and anything about Africa.
You would love this. It's funny.
It's got
It's about a tribesman who finds a Coca-Cola bottle, and he thinks it's a gift from the gods. And I don't know, just let you go from there.
That was it. How many people have been to Africa? I know these two have. Vanessa's been everywhere. Everywhere. And you always take good trips too. I've seen the pictures from your trip. That you got one of those books as well. They put together a book for you when you came back, because I've seen it several times. Who else who else was on this side? Been all the way up there. Here, been yet?
Do you know sort of what their pay is over there? Like I was surprised in the Caribbean how low their wages are.
I'm not sure. I ought to know that. I know it's not a lot. That's the reason that, a $2 or $5 tip is pretty special to me. I don't know. I'm getting to know Raymond a lot better, and he got me on WhatsApp, and we talk about once a week on WhatsApp, and we text back and forth. I'll ask him next time. I'll tell you next time. But I don't. You don't want to embarrass anybody by asking stuff like that. But Raymond, quick story about Raymond. I had on a pair of Merrill shoes that I wore, and somewhere along the line he said, "I really like those shoes you got on." So I intended I was going to give him the shoes at the end of the trip, but he wore a 12 and I wear a 10. So when I got back, I got him a pair of shoes. And then I started trying to figure out how to mail them to him. And it took 30 days to mail a pair of shoes to Tanzania. But he got his shoes. And now I'm going back, and I've already bought him two different pairs to carry. But Brett's going to give him a pair of shoes, and I'm going to give him a pair of shoes. And he likes nice shoes. But he's not pushy about it at all. And I volunteered to get him the shoes. It seemed like the right thing to do. A trip like this, after about a week, you give them because Brett and I, when we go back, there'll just be two of us in the vehicle, and we'll probably both chip in about $20 a day for the tracker and the driver. So that'll round up on its own. But that's about what if there were 5 of us, the trip I've been talking about, there were 5 of us in one vehicle. And I think they said, you know, they wanted, thought the tractor would get in. And everywhere we get, so about, what does that work out? Between $40 and $50 a day for the vehicle. And Brett and I figured out that since there's only 2 of us, that we got to tip a little heavier than we have otherwise. And everywhere, all the places we stay, you tip about, for the people that, just like a motel or a hotel, something like that, we tip about $10 a day, a piece. And that's what those people really, they're getting paid something, but the tips is what they live on. Of course.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah.
because Great Britain ruled Tanzania and a lot of those countries at one time, the shilling is still the currency in some places like Tanzania, and it's 2,500 shillings to $1.
Wow. I didn't know that. When we went to Zanzibar, we went to the museum where that's where they had the largest slave auction in Africa.
Mm.
And a really interesting place to visit from a historical point of view. They had, for several hundred years, the British were in charge, and then I believe the Polish, maybe, or there was another country that was in charge, and then somebody in the Middle East was in charge for several years. Jerry, do you remember that?
Germans.
Germans.
German, East Africa for a long time.
But there's a lot of history there, for a lot longer than we have in the United States. At least except for Native American history, which we sort of forgot. But it was fascinating. It was really fascinating. Other questions? Kathy, you not going to ask anything? What's wrong?
I'm just listening.
She knows that after I'd searched all over for how to ship those shoes, and the U.S. mail was the best deal.
That's surprising.
I don't say too loud, that's what
Sorry.
I've been staring at the zebras, and I've often heard that there's not 2 zebras alike. Did you come across zebras that looked alike?
Well, I thought you might ask, I understand there's 2 different patterns, designs, generally.
Yeah.
I don't know about whether they're all a little bit different.
Yeah. I've heard that already
There
or
were-
something.
And I don't remember what they called it. Occasionally you can tell the difference between one kind and the other kind. Lots of zebras, they're beautiful.
You look at them long enough, the lines start moving.
Did y'all see that picture over there on the table with all over the salt? Those lines,
Yeah.
there's a shady spot, they'll find it. And they'll just pile up sometimes. And the little ones, big ones, that was one of the favorites.
That's a stunning picture, as many of them are.
Are they all females?
No,
That's-
all of those are female or cubs. But there were, not far away, there was some males. Booker, you didn't ask anything yet.
You took too early.
What's your favorite picture, Dan, that you took?
I don't know. The cheetah is pretty special. That was, but the one I liked best is the one that you're gonna be the least impressed with. This leopard was about 75 yards away. It was running across the field, and they stopped, and I got that picture with a telephoto lens. I think that's my favorite out of all of them. But it's probably the one y'all would probably look at and say, well, what's impressive about it? I knew how hard it was to make that picture.
see.
What?
The rarest thing to see is the leopard.
They're not, you don't see a lot.
No.
There were, the birds were real pretty. This is not the balloon that I was in. That was one that was floating along the side of us, floating along. And, but that's the Maury River down underneath there, the one that they have the river crossing. The balloons are special. That's a great part of the trip. And when I've talked about the lines being close to the vehicle, that's an example about how close sometimes those lines can be to the vehicle. But they, it's the wilderness, but they see a lot of vehicles. I think they're pretty, but you never know when one's gonna lose it. I never do get the urge to get out and pat them on the head.
Is there poaching?
They're very concerned about that. The Serengeti they have a lot of game officers there, and it's pretty much dawn to dark. And you're supposed to be back to your tent by dark. And we didn't violate that much. And we only saw one rhino, and it was at a far distance. There were not many rhinos left, not in Serengeti. It's kind of sad. So yes, poaching is a major problem, but they work real hard. Because like I said, it's their best industry.
What do you hope to see on this next trip that you didn't see on this trip?
Just kind of more of the same. I asked Raymond, I said, the only thing keeping me from not coming back, I said, is I'm afraid that I won't see as many animals as I did this time. He said, well, I can take care of that. I said, how can you carry it? He said, just stay twice as long. So we're going back, Brett and I are going back, if everything goes right, we're going to spend, instead of 6 days, we're going to spend 12 days on the Serengeti. But no honeymoon suite. Any other questions? Well, obviously I enjoyed doing this, and I hope y'all enjoyed it a little bit.
Well, that ends our presentation, and after we adjourn, please turn your phones on now, and is there a motion to adjourn? Second. We will adjourn. I'm sure Dan was give you some information on his one-on-one questions on some of these photos that you may have not got to see up close, but we thank you for your presentation, and we'll see you in September. Thank you.